Hi everyone. Today we did get another lower low here, gap down, retest, gap fill, and then continuation lower here. A little bit of volume coming in at the end of the session, a little bit of buying pressure, but as you can see here, this structure continues to weaken, starting to fade off now, got below all the EMAs and SMAs here today. But let's take a quick look at all of the charts as we head into the weekend. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, we have Europe and Iran holding talks as Trump sets a 2-week deadline for the U.S. to make a decision on the strike. There's been a lot of talk in the news. Is the U.S. going to participate in this conflict? And it still remains to be seen if that's going to happen. So they have 2 weeks to meet some of these demands, and then we'll see what happens after that. So not any clarity really, but you got UK, France, and Germany all pushing for an 11th hour diplomacy with Iran in Geneva. So it'll be interesting to see if anything comes out of that. I don't really think that that is going to happen, but there are some talks happening in an attempt to bring this to a little bit more peaceful scenario. But for now, there is still a lot of uncertainty in my opinion. Moving over to fear and greed, we did step up just a little bit today. Interesting considering that markets were lower, a little bit lower here today on momentum indicator. Greed also lower, extreme greed. Strength, again, slightly lower still in greed. The more interesting number for me is breadth. That continues to fade. We'll look at that later. Put call ratio also continuing to elevate. Volatility continuing to grind higher. Safe haven demand bouncing off that zero number just a little bit. Interesting there. And then junk bonds pulling back just a little bit on that spread back into regular greed. Moving over to the economic calendar here just for a moment, you can see Philly Fed was very, very negative, even more negative than the forecast and pretty much in line with the previous number there. Not good at all. Leading index in line with expectations, still negative as well. And then Fed balance sheet stepped up just a little bit. Again, we've been seeing this kind of chop up and down just a little bit, and this was another slight up move for them. Moving over to max pain, we did end up going a little bit lower. You can see an adjustment to that max pain number for the day all the way up to 599. Stock price ended up lower, 595. Not as much lower as I kind of thought that it would initially, especially going into the week, but it did end up lower as we suspected that it would going into this quad witching. Moving over to the chart, starting off with the SPY here, you can see down about 0.5%. Pretty good move there, clean through that 597 level. Got the 21 EMA still acting as support, 592.56. My level there, 591.09. If this zone goes, I'm expecting a pretty powerful move on the back of that. Momentum continues to build to the bear side. RSI continues to build to the bear side as we suspected that it would. And you can see this kind of downtrending price action got slightly lower lows here today. A little bit of volume coming through at the end of the session, a little bit of a spike on the back of that volume, but I'm not super worried about it. This is a downtrend now well below all the EMAs and SMAs on the hourly chart. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we are still in bearish conditions. We had flipped to bullish just for a moment and then get that continuation lower. You can see the ATR bands now pretty consistently trending lower since the 17th. So downtrends all across the board. Again, little volume at the end of the session makes sense to see that. But the more interesting thing here is that we did finally flip to bearish conditions on the 4-hour chart. So your trailing stop now is 606.84 on that. We did get through there on the first candle of the day, continuing lower. Did still find support at that 89 EMA like we thought that we might, but your next zone of support, if that zone breaks, is all the way down at 586, which is pretty much in line with my next level. 585 was that level. So expecting this to push through here. Does it happen on the Monday? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, expecting to get down into this zone over the next trading week. Moving over to the Qs chart here, you can see the Qs were down a little bit less than 0.5%, 0.41%, but we came right to that 21 EMA. 21 EMA there was 525.07. Low of day was 524.88. So we overthrew that level just a little bit, touched that 21 EMA, momentum bearish, RSI bearish, expecting to push through there. And then you can see no support until that 144 all the way down at 503.57. So expecting this to accelerate through there once we finally get some of those structural breaks. We have started to see it happening a little bit more here. You can see came up, retested this, ended up touching there. Big overthrow, took out yesterday's high, really powerful on that wick, surprisingly so. And then very powerful rejection, continuing to see sellers here. Did get a little bit of consolidation into session, did get a little bit of volume just like the SPY charts, but now you can see we're back below this trend structure here. And that is that more medium term trend line that we were watching back here from the lows in April and mid-April. Big trend line there, retested some of that structure, and now we are breaking back down. 523.24 is my next level, and then if that goes, 509.74 is that next major level, and I do suspect that we will get there. Moving over to the Tasty charts here for the Qs, came down to that trailing stop, 524.68, touched that area and then bounced slightly, but we did get below that 34 EMA. Love to see that. We were testing that level multiple times back here on the 13th, again here on the 17th, again here on the 18th, and now we have pushed through there on the 20th, looking for a test of that 89 EMA down at 522.59, just continuing to curl lower here, and I do suspect that we will get that push to the lowest ATR band right now. That target would be 517.99, pretty much in line with that 518 area. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell was negative on the day, only 44 cents. So that put that I had going into the day ended up making money. It did go higher, ended up finishing negative on the session. 21 EMA continues to be support there at 208.49. We have not seen a close below there. I do believe that it is coming. Momentum is bearish. RSI is bearish. Could not get above the 9 EMA, which has been resistance basically every trading day at this point. We touched it back here on the 13th, again the 16th, again here the 18th, and now again on the 20th. Every time we touch that, it has been resistance, and now you can see on the Dow rejecting here below the 200. 422.16 is that level. 418.38 is that next level. It's been holding this highly traded zone really, really well, surprisingly so. But again, structurally, everything says this should go lower. Moving over to the Mag 7. The Mag 7 finished down 1 whole percentage point, underperforming the markets right to that level, 315.04. At the closing price, we were down at 314.88. So you technically closed below it. 21 EMA, again, continues to be support here. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. After hours, you're seeing just a smidgen of a bounce back above that level. But again, losing momentum, overbought conditions, expecting this to fade eventually. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Pretty surprising here on Apple. Up 2.24%. So again, this 193 to 196 zone has continued to be support, and that is where we got to back on Tuesday, Wednesday, and now we've seen just a little bit of a bounce. This has been your resistance. That 55 EMA came here mid-May, came here again beginning of June, and now we are again here towards the end of June. Does this reject from here and break back lower, or do we push through here back into a bullish condition? Look for that 200 SMA all the way up at 223.84. Definitely remains to be seen. And then you can see a big sell here on Microsoft. Interesting. Tried to go higher outside reversal day, finishing lower on the session. Big volume coming through. Has this rally ended? It's been an absolutely massive run here, straight up since basically 22 April to current. So straight up for many, many months, all through May, and now all through June, straight up price action. And now we saw just a smidgen of a reversal, but that volume coming in at that level and in today's price action does say maybe this is done, at least for now. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla still consolidating, support still 313.80, resistance still that 336.67 level. Hit the 144, hit the 21, rejected, still finished positive. NVIDIA very similar actually to Microsoft here, finishing negative over 1%, a little bit of volume coming through, momentum bearish, RSI bearish. So are these best stocks starting to pull back? And that's why we saw the Mag 7 pull back, something to consider. And if the Mag 7 is going to start to turn lower significantly, of course, we expect markets to go with it. Moving over to Amazon and Alphabet. Oh my goodness, what happened here? Down 1.33%, and Google down 3.59%, all the way down to the low range of this structure here. We saw the rejection here. We did expect that we were going to get there. I didn't think it would happen like this, but look at that volume ramp. Huge volume ramp here over the last 2 days. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Does this go through here? Does it break below that 55 EMA? If it does, this has been one of the longest bull flags. This has been one of the longest bear flags in a long time, and if that structurally breaks down, it's going to be quite terrible. And then Amazon back below that 212.25 level, 21 EMA, VWAP, 144 EMA, tons of buyers coming in at that area. No surprise that we held that level, but I do suspect that that is going to break. You still have a high, lower, high structure, volume coming through, momentum coming through. Does seem like we're going to go lower. Moving over to Staples and discretionary. Staples found a little bit of legs here today, a little bit of risk off price action. You can see Staples was up a nice amount there at 0.73, and then you got discretionaries up just a smidgen, still holding that level 210.43 was the support. Touch the 200. This is a second touch. We touched it back here on 5 June, and now we did get a little bit of a bounce there. Still momentum bearish, still RSI bearish. Moving over to breadth, relatively unchanged on breadth. You can see 20-day tried to go higher and then ended up lower. 50-day went a little bit lower to the level finally at 62.25, touched that level and then caught a smidgen of a bounce. Momentum and RSI still bearish there, not expecting this to change structure. Clear double top, breakdown of structure, expecting that to continue lower. The more interesting story, however, on breadth is the 200-day breadth. You can see these 3 down bars in a row continuing to fade structurally. Came into this 144 EMA zone, rejected, came in, retested, rejected. As this continues to go lower, 200-day is the more powerful of the group, of course, and this structural looks even more bearish than some of the others. Moving over to bonds, what a day here on bonds. J&K having an amazing day, up 0.3%, clean through that 200. Very powerful move, headed towards that 96.50 level. Seems like a nice buying opportunity. I've been saying buy bonds, but this is a good one here. And now you got TLT came down, retested the zone, caught a bounce. It's up a smidgen after hours, expecting that to continue to go higher here. Again, bonds, really, really good place to be, continuing to buy them. And this does look a little bit better than real estate right now in the short term. Real estate seems to be moving a little bit lower. Maybe that becomes a better buying opportunity over the next week to 2 weeks, but right now bonds seem to be the place to be. Moving over to the VIX, you can see we did go a little bit lower, touching that 21 EMA area, finishing back to bullish on momentum. RSI back to bullish. Looking for this to go at least to the 55 at the 24.35 level, and then looking for 28.89 as that next zone of resistance. I still suspect that we are going to see a bigger move into this area, but for now, we haven't seen it. We're just kind of consolidating above support. Moving over to my accounts, of course, we finished nicely positive on the day. Took off that Russell position in a nice profit, and then we ended up going a little bit lower. Again, still would have been well above that 208 level that we did have the puts sold at, but either way, good there. And then you got those Qs positions, nice little profit on the day. As the Qs were down, up another $312 on that, almost back to positive on the year. It's been an absolute slog this year, but that would be awesome as markets continue to seem like they are going to go lower. If this did trend lower, want to see the rest of this come in. Still tons and tons of credit available here. We're at basically 1,000 out of the 6,000 potential profit on it. I still think we're going to go lower, still holding this position, and that's what I'm looking for next week. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of the new deadline on the Iran-Israeli conflict. Should the US get involved? What does that mean for markets? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.